Welcome to Caleb's Basketball Pod. Here we are. We're coming at you a day late. But nonetheless, you're still going to get that episode out, and we'll have another episode tomorrow. But by coming a day late, we get to speak on the NBA Paris game, which just finished up probably about an hour or two ago. Where we saw the San Antonio Spurs dismantle the Indiana Pacers 140-110. Victor Wembanyama had an amazing game. But for the Pacers really took control, in my opinion, of this game, and especially not like Victor Wembanyama. But let's just talk about this right now, the Paris game. So when you're watching these Paris games, and especially the Paris fans that watch this in person, you want to see a good close game. This represents the NBA. You want to see two teams compete at the high level. You want to see a close game. You don't want to see it go one-sided. This game went all one-sided. It went San Antonio's way. Indiana never really caught up. San Antonio kind of jumped out and stayed out. It was decently close at halftime, but they pulled away in that fourth quarter, and then they just kept their foot on the gas to finish it in the fourth. You would prefer if the game was a lot closer, especially when it's represented for these fans, and these fans get to see 2 games a year in person. And you wish it was closer, but the San Antonio Spurs are playing really good basketball right now. Pacers had a streak going a little bit ago that came to a halt when they lost to the Cavs, and then they've kind of been up and down since. As for the Spurs, I really love what they're doing this season. We've seen Victor Wembanyama be more empowered. He's been a more focal point of the offense, unlike last season where his minutes were up and down, and some games he'd only play 20 minutes. This season we're seeing more extended periods of time where we see Victor Wembanyama play basketball, and I for one love it. He's been amazing. He's been a monster, leads the league in blocks, and he's just done so much already at such a young age. He's most definitely a future superstar in the NBA. As for looking around for other games, yesterday we saw some interesting games. We saw the Mavericks win the Mavericks drop 115-114 to the Minnesota Timberwolves, who have now caught fire as of late. They're winning more, and they now are tied record-wise with the Dallas Mavericks. They've been on their way up. I still think they need a few more pieces. I think their offense would run more smoothly if Julius Randle didn't hold the ball so much, and if they had someone that they could put in that cat spot that they had last season, I think their offense would be a lot smoother. But nonetheless, they're finding ways to win, and that's what you want to see. And they won the Western Conference Finals last year. I don't think anyone's counting them out this year. It will be an uphill climb to get there this year because they've struggled much of this season, but it's still possible. And Anthony Edwards is playing really, really good right now. Should be an all-star, possibly an all-star starter. Luka Doncic has missed a lot of times. Steph Curry's been up and down. I think we know Shea's going to be a starter. Those starters will be announced tonight. But speaking of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he dropped a career-high 54 points last night against the Utah Jazz. The opponent, Utah, we know they're one of the bottom teams in the NBA. And, putting 54 on a bottom team is not always talked about, but to go out and put 54 on anyone in the NBA is tough. And Shai's been balling this year. His MVP odds have improved drastically this past week alone. I believe he's the front runner. I think he's the front runner, and Jokic is behind him. And probably if you go after Jokic, it would probably be Giannis Antetokounmpo, depending on where the Milwaukee Bucks finish. But Shai's just been really, really playing lights-out basketball. He's hitting big shots. He had 18 free throws last night. He made 17 of them. That is ultra impressive. And then to speak on free throws, we saw the Houston Rockets beat at the time the number 1 team in the league, the Cleveland Cavaliers, as Darius Garland failed to hit more than one free throw with his team trailing by 2 when he had 3 free throws with 4 seconds left, and he only hit 1, and we saw the Cavaliers drop that one to the Houston Rockets 108-109. Houston Rockets, I love their defense. I love how just they play with energy, and you know what you're getting from them every night. They're hustling, they're competing, and they're going out and they're winning basketball games. I love that, and there's a reason they're the number 2 team in the Western Conference. One thing I need and I want to see more from Houston is Jalen Green will have a stretch where he's going 30, 40, 20, 30, 40, games like that. And it's going up and it's around the area, and then he'll come with a few games where he's like 12, 10, 15, 10, 15. It's like stuff like that. Like, I want to see more consistent, and we've talked about this for years for Jalen Green, I feel we're always talking about him finding that consistency. He is good, he is talented, he is young, he is athletic. There was no reason he should not be averaging 20, 24, 25 at least, and consistently at least reaching 20. But when you see him go like one game here where he's really, really good, the next game where he's suspect, like he's so talented that he doesn't need to do that. He needs to sort himself more in each game, I feel. And I feel him stepping up to be that guy for Houston is part of how Houston takes the next step. Another part, and I've mentioned you on past podcasts, is I think they do need that next star. I think you want Jalen Green to be the guy if at all possible, but you need that next star that can either do it for Jalen Green, take over on games where, again, like I said, he's inconsistent, or can be second to Jalen Green and scoring, and then you can have Şengün do his thing where he's getting shots inside, he's getting assists, he's getting rebounds, and then you have your 3. But right now I think they have 2, and on some nights 1.5 if you get in 10 points from Jalen Green. So I think Houston's an interesting team. I do think they're moving upward, but I do think they need one more piece, one more star piece to be there, to be a real threat to come out of the Western Conference. But it's also going to be experience. I've talked about Memphis. I've talked about Memphis not coming out of the Western Conference, not winning a round or more than a round or 2. Well, Houston, this core has not been in the playoffs together. There's going to be growing pains, and it's not going to be easy. And depending on even where they make it in the first round, they're still in danger of being bumped out early just from inexperience in the playoffs, and they may match up with, like, say, a Los Angeles Lakers, and you're going against LeBron James as an inexperienced team. You may get bumped in the first round. We don't know, but it'll be an interesting story to watch, and I hope the best for the Rockets. I think they're playing, like I said, really good basketball, and you know what you're getting from them night in and night out. Speaking of really good basketball, we saw the Detroit Pistons beat the Atlanta Hawks. And the Detroit Pistons, I just want to shout out the Detroit Pistons. They are playing really, really good basketball right now. We're seeing the consistency, the hustle, the defense, the effort's there. Something we were not saying last year, that the Detroit Pistons' effort on playing basketball is there, but it's there right now. And I just love what I'm seeing. I spoke on them a little bit. Cade Cunningham's really coming into his own. Bickerstaff's done a good job of developing consistency, good consistency, not the bad consistency they had, but the good consistency and repetition, and we're seeing them just more and more, and guys are getting after it, and each night, and they're competing, and you have your vets like Tim Hardaway, like Tobias, like Malik Beasley. These guys are coming in and they're doing what they're supposed to, and Detroit's winning basketball games, and they could very well finish as a top 6 seed in the Eastern Conference and not even go in the play, and that's how good a basketball they're playing right now. So it'll be interesting to see how they pan out and where they end up. But no matter what, they took a huge, huge step forward. Team that's up and down. I've talked about a little bit the Atlanta Hawks on the flip side of this game. So they lost to Detroit. They've beat Boston twice. They've beat New York twice. They've beat Cleveland twice. They've also lost to the Wizards twice. They have been historically in the middle. And even this season, they are historically in the middle, as in being the only team to beat Boston, Cleveland, and New York twice, and the only team to lose to Washington Wizards twice. Just inconsistency and historically in the middle. and most definitely need another guy in more of a team alongside Trey, in my opinion. And I don't mean like they have some good pieces, but I mean they need that forward, like secure forward option to Trey, that guard, that maybe shooting guard, maybe star small forward guy that can go out and can get points and can be the guy when you need him to go alongside Trey. And if you have that with Trey, they're going to look good, and they're going to be possibly a top 5 or 6 seed in the East. So if I'm Atlanta, that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for the rebuild because you have good young pieces to get there. You just have to finish it off, in my opinion. As we wait, I'll be back tomorrow. Jimmy Butler's been suspended 2 more games because he did not come to the Miami Heat team flight. So they suspended him 2 more games. This situation is just getting really sticky and just out of hand, in my opinion. At this point, I think it's best just get him off of the team, and you may not receive a great deal, but just to get him out and just not have to deal with him and bringing the team morale down. If I'm Miami, I'm just looking to unload him somewhere at this point. You're suspending him, you're not using him anyway, so you're not getting anything for him right now. But I think it's just best if this just ends and it doesn't keep going. Stay on the lookout because the NBA trade deadline is February 6th. Moved up this season, which is very interesting. And also stay tuned. Tomorrow we'll talk about who got announced as NBA All-Star starters, what that necessarily means with having 3 teams, because now there will be 3 units of starters, but I'm assuming it's only 2 units of starters. So what necessarily being a starter means, I don't completely get. And when you're having 10 players and you're having 3 GMs pick teams, be interested in the format, and I really do hope the All-Star game turns around and gets better. But it's interesting to see if this works, but also see what they like starters. It's going to be in a draft poll again, so what does 10 starters mean when 3 guys are picking? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, and maybe we'll get more clarification on that tonight as they announce these starters, hopefully. But nonetheless, I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for watching, and yeah, stay tuned. We have a lot of things coming up. Some more interviews on the way, and we're just like I said, having a good time watching some good basketball right now. So stay tuned.